yesterday. Went to the mall with my son. We bought 12 of these mega cookies from this place, Duchess Cookies. They had to give us 2 boxes. It was so much. They were amazing. Just wanted to pull out a couple of these things. This one's got a chocolate chip cookie in the middle of it. It's got some like glitter on it and stuff. It's like glitter. This is a funfetti one. This tastes kind of like a butter cookie, like a snickerdoodle without the cinnamon, I guess. Really, really good. Doesn't sound as good as it really is. They're amazing. But anyway, it was the first time I really ventured out of the house in about a year. I went to the Queens Mall with my son. We had a really nice time walking around, and he got some cool stuff too. He bought a diary, his first diary. He's 9. It's got like a lock on it, and it's all fuzzy, and it's like a fuzzy unicorn diary with a lock on it. And so he's gonna start using that and stuff. But anyway, we got these cookies, and we just really overdid it, So they're real expensive, I don't know how expensive, like, I don't know, maybe $5 a piece or $4 a piece or something. But the lady kept looking at me like, you sure you know what you're doing, How many do you want? Like, most people get 1 or 2, or if they take home a bunch, they get like maybe 4 or 5 or something, So I was like, yeah, I want a dozen. And we just kept asking for more and more and more. She's looking at me like, is this guy bad at math, or is he just, crazy or what? And finally, I gave her the credit card and stuff. And we had to take 2 boxes and put it in our tote bag and stuff. And my son couldn't carry it. I had to carry it. But I got home. And as I was smelling these cookies on the way home, I kept getting these little guilt pangs, You're like, oh man, why did I just spend like $57.99 on cookies, Especially since I haven't been to work in over a year. I'm not trying to give you a sob story, just trying to give you like a little bit of the background of what happened. So anyway, the place it's not super far, but it's like 2 stops away by subway. And I've been avoiding the subways and the trains since the beginning of the pandemic. And this is like one of the first times I really went out and got home. The wife was like, oh, did you get this? Did you get that? She was totally cool with it, But I was still getting those like little guilt pangs, those twinges of guilt. Like, it's one of those things, like, as a parent, you're cool buying stuff for your kids, but whenever you buy something like for yourself, you just feel like, it's not necessary, you just don't want to get it, But anyway, to make a long story less long, when I got home, there was a viewer donation. One of you guys out there, a very gentlemanly gentleman from country of India, said, hey Kev, the cookies are on me. And he gave me, a little nice note and a PayPal donation for $57, the exact amount that I paid. And I was like, yeah. It was like amazing. It was so cool. It's one of those things. I even felt guilty for taking that kind of. It's like, oh man, why did I have to get $57 worth of? But sometimes you got to do something special for the family, and. He gets bored, they get bored, we get bored. It's definitely hard for a little kid to stay indoors for a year, especially a 9-year-old. So that was a beautiful, sweet gesture, no pun intended. It was sweet, kind, gentlemanly, and I loved it. It was really good. It made my night. I had a good night's sleep last night, which was really cool. Slept very well, and soundly. So I just wanted to say thank you to my friends out there who's given donations to hats and guitars. It was just super, super cool. I got another one too, a really nice one from another person, and I thank you too, after that video. So it was really cool. I try not to ask, but it definitely helps. We'll talk about hats eventually sometime today. So thank you for all of those. That was very cool, very awesome. I had a good a birthday week, and the cookies were amazing. Still working on them and stuff. This just barely cracked the first box. Working on the second box now. Okay, let's talk a little bit about hats and hat steaming today. Now, as far as hat steaming goes, there are a lot of things you can do without the steam too. There are certain hats you're going to find when you start steaming that are not going to respond well to the steaming process. This happens not all the time, but it happens occasionally. You'll just find a hat that the brim is not straight, and then you go to steam it, and it just seems to almost get worse. And then you try to stiffen it, and double stiffen it, triple stiffen it, let it dry. You figure, okay, I got this. The stiffener will dry it right into place. You give it a touch of steam, and it gets worse and worse. This is an anomaly that you see sometimes in newer hats. You don't see it in vintage hats, only newer stuff, when the companies go ultra light and ultra thin. It's one of those things that you'll see it in all kinds of hats, crossover hats. You'll see it in Western crossovers, fedoras, all kinds of things. Not so much full-out Westerns, because they can be really thick, but things that are more in the crossover region, and things that are just straight up fedoras. You can find this. So that's something you need to address when you're steaming. Now, it turns out the last time I checked with Jiffy Steamer, since July 18th till about, I think, July 26th, 19 of you guys used my promo code to buy a Jiffy Steamer, which is, you know, really awesome. Which, it's great. You know, I got a free steamer. You guys being able to fix your hats, and you got a little discount, and Jiffy, you know, sold some units, which is great. You know, so everybody seemed to be like win-win. It's one of these things where, okay, now you've got a steamer, so I want to tell you some of the pitfalls and things that you might come across, you know, some of the traps and stuff. While steaming, occasionally you're going to find a hat that just doesn't want to respond to steam. You think you've got it, and you think you've got all this experience, and then the hat just doesn't want to agree with you, doesn't want to behave. That is generally thinness of felt. It has to do more with the manufacturing of the hat, not so much with the hat being too soft or too, you know, this or that, or shop worn or out of shape. It's more with the hat itself being just too thin, that it just feels like curling. So the more you steam it, the more it just wants to kind of curl. You're holding it flat, and it's just, as soon as the moisture hits it, yeah, that's one of those things. When you start seeing that, stop. Don't steam any further, because the more you steam it, the more you're going to kind of mess it up in those cases. It's a kind of a rare thing. It's not there all the time, but you might come across one of these. Generally, the first thing I do is I stiffen more. Okay? You take some packing tape, you dust the hat, you stiffen it with some hairspray. I'll show you the stuff that I use. I've been using this, but it doesn't matter. As long as it's super hold, ultra hold, what do they call this one here? I don't know, super, let me see what they call it. This is long-lasting hold, max hold. Okay, max hold. Anything that's their strong formula is good. Artists use this stuff when they're sealing different, like charcoal paintings and stuff. You know, if you have some kind of a charcoal drawing and you just don't want to get smudged, you could use some, you know, coating of this as crystal clear. It's just like a home remedy. Instead of buying the artist crystal clear for like 20 a bottle, you buy this for like 3. It's acetone, which is the active ingredient in a lot of hat stiffeners anyway. So it works well. It's got a little bit of a shine to it, a little bit of a scent to it, but none of that really come through when you're stiffening hats. It's just, you don't really see it. And if you do, it's a plus, not a minus. So I've used the hairspray for, you know, at least 2 decades without any side effects or problems. There's no buildup or anything like that. I tend to do the bottom. Okay, I like to do the bottom and cover up the sweatband rather than do the top and risk getting it on this. You don't want to get it on the bands, but you also don't want to get it on the inside band, the leather bands. So you got to cover them up. If you're doing the top, you got to cover this. If you're doing the bottom, you got to cover the sweatband. If you have a hat jack is enough. You just put the hat jack in, you hold it, and that's like a handle. So you kind of like have the hat jack in there, you're holding it, and what it does is it covers there and it covers there. Most of the band is covered, and that works enough to spray the underside of the brim. If you don't have a hat jack, there are other ways to cover it. You could just use tissue, paper, cellophane bags, anything, and just pile it up inside the crown all the way to the top so that the leather is covered. Then you spray here. You make sure you give it a good even coat, and that it's dusted thoroughly before, and you stiffen it, and then you see what happens. If you're still curling and stuff, you could try stiffening it more, but generally this means you've hit one of these hats. There are some hats that don't respond well to any kind of moisture. Steam, rain, snow, even like bad humidity sometimes, and lots of sweat can even do it. It's just a thing. You don't see it so much in older hats, but you do see it sometimes in newer hats because people, I guess, they cut corners when they're manufacturing. And you don't see it in a lot of different models, but you know, I used to think it was like a raw edge thing, like, you know, hats with raw edges are a little weaker, but it's not. Hats with a bound edge can curl just as easily. It has to do with thinness of felt. So what I'm saying is, when you come across this issue and the hat starts like just curling and doing things that you don't want it to do, consider just stopping. That the more you do, the more you're going to sort of mess it up. There are ways to fix your hat without steam too. Like for instance, if your hat is going too far up, you can just bend the hat, you know, down, you know, really far down without steam. You just do the opposite. If your hat is not going enough up, you could push it more up, you know, you could curl it. What you do is you just go a little extra far in the direction you need to go, no steam, and just be kind of aggressive at it. I found there are ways to do it. You can sometimes flatten out a brim by using weights, you know, just press it against the table. If the stiffener and the steaming are not working. This is, like I said, it's a rare thing. You may never come across it. You may come across it in one of your hats. I've seen it in a few different things. I'm not going to mention what brands and what models, because I just don't think that's fair, but it could be really almost anything. Now, let's talk a little bit about stiffening. Now, when you have a hat that is too floppy, it's just too soft, you're not going to get any results until you stiffen. So the stiffening process is not that difficult. I showed you take some packing tape. You know, let me show you. I'm going to put the guitar down. Alright. You grab yourself some of the packing tape. Make a few rings. You might want to make like 5 of these or something. You can make 10 if the hat's super, super dusty, you know. You grab yourself your hat that needs the dusting. Is everything dusty here? Look at my temple. Alright, here's a Stetson temple. So, you don't want to pat it down. Rotate the tape. Get it to the part that's not covered with lint. Keep rotating it. Okay, let's get another one. Make tape rings. Alright. Clean it up thoroughly. You cannot stiffen unless you do this step first. You must do this. Otherwise, you're taking all the dust and lint and you're sealing it underneath a coat of plastic. You've got a little window sealing it in, like decoupage or whatever, and that dust is always there forever. So don't make that mistake. Pat it down really well. Overdo it, you know. You think it's clean, give it another shot, you know, just for the heck of it, just to make sure you get it all. Do the edge too. The very edge. Get that also. Alright. Next thing I like to do is I stuff the inside with tissue. I make little flat pancakes of it and I stack them up until they get to the top. That way I'm not getting any spray on the leather. You don't want to get any hairspray on this leather. It's going to screw it up for kind of forever, you know, so you don't want to do that. Use whatever you have. If you have a bunch of shopping bags, stick them in there. You have some paper, it doesn't matter what you have, but stick it in there and definitely cover it up. It's got to be done. Let's see what I can use. I can use just for now. Alright, let's put this in here. Cover up all the leather so nothing's getting on the leather. Alright. Then you want to take your spray, and I'm going to tape it down a little bit more because I wasn't happy with my taping job, and I had some lint on that little bag that I just put in there. Most important step is the taping. You really have to do this. If you skip it, you're going to be messing your hat up on purpose, you know. Well, not on purpose, but you'll be messing your hat up where if you just left it alone, it would have been much better. Alright, tape it down real good. Alright. Get your spray. What you want to do is you want to spray it maybe once down, once across, like that, you know. Give it a quick. Maybe do that like twice, maybe 3 times, okay? That's about it. You don't want to get drips. Once might be good. If you gave it a nice shot once, that's enough. If you felt that they were really thin coats, do it again, you know. It should look a little misty when you do it. Don't worry, it disappears. You can see it's a little misty looking there on the edges and stuff. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, let's put this light on. Slight misty looking on the edges there. Alright. Wait to see what happens. If you have one of these hats that's too thin and doesn't respond to steaming and moisture and stuff, it's going to start curling already. This hat is okay. This is a Temple. It's lightweight, it's thin, it's got a big brim, raw edge. All of the things that equal a curly, you know, brim. But it was made well. The brim is thick enough, there's enough felt there that it's stable. What I do now is I let it dry. Just sit it down somewhere. Let's put it in front of the air conditioner. The air is pumping now. Okay, we'll talk a little bit while it's drying. Alright, as that's drying, you think about, you know, what you're going to do next. You might want to, you know, wait and give it a little time because that hat has to really, really dry. What I did is I purposely kind of steamed it very, very lightly. I didn't do too much because I don't want to wait a half an hour and stuff. You know, I'm doing it just as a kind of a test to show you guys, you know, now. So I kept the steam real light. Also, you don't know how your hat's going to respond. If you have a thick hat, it's real thick and meaty, it's going to be fine. If you have a real thin hat, long brim, raw edge, those are brims that are less stable, like that Temple. So I give it a nice small dose of the spray. 1, 2, 3, 4. Top, right, bottom, left. You know, just cover it all. Put it in front of the fan or the air conditioner. Fan is fine, really. You don't need to use the air, but I've got mine pumping today, so we'll just keep it there. While it's drying, you can think about what you're going to do next. For me, this brim doesn't need too much. It really doesn't. It needed more cleaning, if anything. The theory is this: don't play with your hats and steam them and mess with them unless they really need it, because you can knock them out of shape easily, more easily than you can fix them sometimes. So, you know, try not to use your real good hats, your neat new hats, as guinea pigs and stuff. You know, get something older. You know, find yourself a hat in a thrift shop somewhere that's $2 or $3 and practice on that or something. Or if you have 4 or 5 hats at home, work on your oldest one, the one that's the most dogged and stuff, you know. But the newer ones, it's like this: if it's not broken, don't try to fix it, because you're more likely going to knock something out of shape easier than you're going to make it nicer. So it's a thing. You can oversteam a hat. You don't want to oversteam it. You want to spray it. You want to let it dry. Okay, get it nice and dry as a bone. Then you want to steam it. Hold it, manipulate it into the shape you want. Let it dry. Pause. Wait. Work on another area. You know what I'm saying? Steam it, manipulate it, move it to where you want it to. Let it dry in place. Move on. You don't want to keep steaming and steaming and steaming in the same place. What happens is it gets so wet and so saturated that the steaming process doesn't work anymore. The whole process of steaming is basically, it's like a heating and cooling. If you have a brim that's like this and you want it to be like this, okay, you put some stiffener on it, okay. Then what you do is you heat it with the steam, you push it to the area where you want it to be while it's wet and hot, okay, and then you cool it, you hold it, and you cool it into place. Now when that stiffener dries, it hardens up into a hard plastic shell, and it's holding it and controlling it, okay? So it's the cooling of that stiffener that's really doing the work. So if you're just steaming, it never cools, and it just always stays wet, and there's no drying. So you press it down, and it's just so saturated all the way down into the middle of the felt, it's not drying. So you got to do each little area, move on. Do a small area, like do the front, get it right, hold it, let it dry and cool and harden into place. Now the hat is not wet anymore. Then you do the side, etc. Move on, do the back. Don't do the whole hat and just keep steaming. It's just not going to work. Remember, it's a process of heating, pushing it into place, and then cooling into place. It's got the stiffener that you applied or the stiffener that's already in the hat has to melt for a second so you can move it, get it where you want, get everything in line, okay? And then you hold it while it's cooling. It hardens into place. So there's like a glue there. Most of the hats already have the glue in it. The stiffener's in there. But when your hats get so used and old and floppy, that stiffener's worn out and it's just not there anymore. You have to apply some more to hold it into place. So that's why you stiffen. Now remember, don't just stiffen and spray a hat just because Kevin says that's part of it. Only stiffen the hat and spray a hat when you feel the hat is too soft and it's not hard enough to hold up its own weight. If it's got some, this has got some good stiffener in it. It's you know what I'm saying? This is a soft hat. I could roll this thing up. I could put it in my pocket, whatever. But there's some good stiffener in there that's holding it up. Okay, if you feel it's not up enough, try it without steam. Try it without stiffener. See if you could just reconstitute the stiffener that's in there. That's another thing. Sometimes you'll have a hat that feels soft, and all you got to do is just hit it with the steam, and whatever stiffener that was in there gets reconstituted. It sort of comes back again. It comes back alive, and the hat will dry hard. So it's pretty cool. You got your soft hat, you hit it with steam, you do what you want with the brim, straighten it out, you let go, and then you feel, wait a minute, hey, it hardened up again. That's because there was stiffener already in the brim. So you can try that. You see if it works. A lot of the times that's what it is that you're moving the hat, you're squeezing it, you're doing all these things during the day, and you're making little microscopic cracks in the stiffener, okay? But the stiffener's still there. You're just making little folds and bends and cracks in it, all right? So when you hit it with steam, the stiffener just sort of melts and then reconstitutes. It becomes like solid again, and you don't need to add any spray. So add the stiffener spray if the hat is floppy and soft and it just can't hold up its weight. You see, it's just like this, you know. If you got a little body in the hat, you know, then you probably don't need to add any. All right, I know I overstated my case, but what I'm really getting at is don't fix something that's already fixed. If it seems okay, try it, you know. Don't just steam and spray just because you're bored and, you know, you want to do something. I've done that before, and the other tendency is like, I want to change this hat. I want to do something. Like that hat right over there, that burgundy hat with the pork pie on it. When that started out, it was an open crown fedora. It had no shape. It was just open crown, like one of those Billy Gibbons things, round on top. And I loved it. But then I changed it to a center crease because, I don't know, I decided that it was too high for me. And it was okay. It was all right with the center crease. It wasn't that bad. And then one day I decided that I was bored and I wanted to turn it into some kind of weird gambler thing. So I made the top flat and I pork pied it, and I started pulling up the sides, doing some kind of weird gambler-y thing or something, and then I realized I screwed the hat up. It's just totally, now I can't get it back. It will never be open crown again. So that's the one shape you can't really go back to. Open crown is just like a pure shape, and once you start steaming in lines and creases, it's almost impossible to get that out. Not with just hand steaming, using your hands. It's not going to work. You're going to have to actually re-block the hat, you know, remanufacture the hat the way a hat maker does, and wet it, stretch it, put it on a mold, you know, and you'll be able to get out those creases. But if you like your open crown, don't mess with it, because you cannot go back to it. Once you mess up your open crown, you put a crease in it, it's like stretched. You can't get a round top anymore that looks good. It's gone. What you can do is like the blue hat there, that's an open crown hat with just a crease, but I didn't steam it in. I just placed a little crease so I could always pop that out, and that'll be open crown again, the blue one. That's what you do. Make shapes without steam. And practice that. If you feel you could do something without steam, without spray, do that. It's good, because every time you use steam and you pinch in shapes real aggressively, you pinch them in hard, or any of that stuff, it's kind of making a permanent dent in there. And, you know, sometimes you could cover it up. If you have like a center crease like that, you can turn that center crease back into a teardrop or something, because the teardrop will hide it, you know, but you'll never really get rid of that center crease. It's always there. So, like I said, don't do too much stuff. If you like your hat already, don't change it. It tends to be like a phenomenon. When you first start shaping your hats, you just want to do something. You just want to do something. You're like, what should I do to this hat? You walk around to your coworkers, should I pork pie this or teardrop it? What do you think? No, Kev, it looks good. Don't touch it. Leave it alone. No, I want to do something to it. And then, you know, a year later, you're like, why did I screw up my hat? It looks so perfect, you know. So, yeah, don't fix it if it ain't broke. That's what I'm getting at. All right, let's take a look at this hat now. Okay, the temple responded really well to the spring. There's no curling or anything. Next, what I would probably do is I would heat it up with a little steam, and I would do the tabletop method. Now let's get this guitar off. Okay. The tabletop thing, that's kind of like one of my signature moves. It's like when you just put it against the tabletop like that, like a, let me use this book that Daisy gave me, awesome book. I've read like 10 pages since she gave it to me, but it's awesome. So what I do is I steam the whole area here, all this gets steamed, and then I just, with my fingers, not pressing down, just getting all of this edge to touch the tabletop. In other words, I just want it to touch, touch, touch. And I'm keeping the roundness, the curve of it, but I'm straightening just the edge. So that's what I do next, you know? Steam it and do the old tabletop method. Spin it around, do it again, do one area, tabletop it. Okay, use a straight edge to straighten your brim. Okay, minimal steam will do it. Remember, always tape before you steam. Dust your hat and then cover up the sweatband. Very important. If you get sticky spray on your sweatband, it just, yeah, you can't get that off. So do the tabletop method like this. After you steam it, don't press and flatten out that flange. You want that flange to be real curvy, but you want the edge to be straight. So all I'm doing is making sure that it's touching here, here, here. All these parts are touching. Spread my hand out, and that's it. Let it dry for, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. Steam another part, rotate it. The old tabletop method. That's it. Alright. Just wanted to give you guys a few pointers today, just a few tips, and say thank you for those lovely cookies and for the donations that were given yesterday. There were a couple of them, and they were both super, super appreciated. From the bottom of my heart.